Welcome to the Andy Staples Show. It's a newsy Monday here in the world of college football. Scott Docterman can't get away from this podcast. He can't because you cover Iowa, Scott, and there's always something going on. And so on Monday, in racial discrimination lawsuit that was filed by former Iowa football players, but there's a twist.
Yeah, there's definitely a twist this one. One I didn't see coming. I knew that the settlement was on its way, and what happened, the coaches wanted to fight all the way through the trial. The university, like, this was for attorneys' fees and the 12 plaintiffs. The state auditor in Iowa, Rob Sand, said that he would oppose the settlement, which involved $2 million from the state, if Gary Barta remains the athletic director at Iowa. And Gary Barta has been at the Iowa athletic director since 2006, but he's lost several of these cases, all of them, in fact. In 2017, they lost a gender and sexual discrimination lawsuit for $6.5 million, which drained their reserves, which they sorely needed during the COVID year. Then in COVID, 10 days after the Big Ten announced it would shut down the football season, he decided to eliminate 4 sports, was sued for Title IX compliance, and was forced to not only pay for the attorney's fees, but reinstate the women's sport that he cut, and then add another women's sport on top of it. There have been other issues I know that have gotten a lot of people laughing over the years, whether it's Kirk Ferentz's multiple 10-year contracts that you can't get out of. Fran McCaffrey.
Yeah, he's not been a great negotiator by any stretch.
No, he's the Washington Generals of negotiation.
Wow. I mean, I've not seen something like this before where a state official has just said, we're not helping you pay for this unless he's not there. Now, could the athletic department just pay for this? Or because it said the Board of Regents is also paying.
Yeah, it's divided up because the Board of Regents is an arm of the state of Iowa when it governs the 3 major universities, Northern Iowa, Iowa State, and the University of Iowa. And so the settlement, because the individuals, the coaches, did not want to have any part of a settlement, they were dismissed. And then this came aboard both the state of Iowa's Board of Regents and then, of course, the University of Iowa. It could be switched. I don't see any reason why it couldn't be to either go through the athletic department or go through the state of Iowa. But I think he is, Rob Sand is mimicking a lot of people right now, which is Gary Barta is not necessarily the most popular figure in Iowa, hasn't been for a long time, even though the athletics wing of this has been fairly successful recently. I mean, you look at, the women just won their second straight Big Ten tournament, are ranked in the top 10. The men's basketball team's been successful. Football has largely been successful. Wrestling, of course, although they're not very successful. They're only second. If they're not first, they're last. That's the way they look at it. And then also even the baseball teams, 8-1, beat number 1 LSU. So success in athletics has been probably at its zenith overall. However, when it comes to being able to do these types of projects, I mean, you're talking about a football stadium that's largely sold out every year, was last year in July, and you're talking about an athletic department that's part of the Big Ten that just continues to get more and more money. So, when you peel back what Gary Barta has and hasn't done, there's been a lot of dings here, and this is the latest one. And he was warned about a lot of the discrimination situation involving Chris Doyle, the weight room, in 2018 and 2019, and chose to do only a little bit. And then it all exploded in early June of 2020. And that's why we're here now with the settlement.
So do you think they're going to relieve Gary Barta of his duties, or do you think they'll figure out a way to pay for this without doing that?
I would not be surprised if the university decides to handle the payment of this. And I also would not be surprised if Gary Barta is no longer the athletic director at some point. He had unwavering support at different junctures when he was forced to fire the field hockey coach for mistreatment. The one hang up with that was you had the senior associate athletics director, Jane Meyer, was the field hockey's partner. He had her reassigned, and then she was eliminated. Her job was eliminated from the university, so she sued on retaliation and sexual discrimination, and ended up settling out of court $6.5 million. There have been a lot of people who have wanted him out, but the athletics or the presidential's office has always supported him. Well, they have a new president over the course of about a last year in Barbara Wilson, and it would not surprise me at all. She has a different voice and a different view of this. So I could see Gary Barta probably leaving. And the other factor is that he used to have unwavering support from Kirk Ferentz, and that's no longer the case. They've butted heads over Brian's contract, but also over things such as the role of the athletic department in supporting the collective. And so I don't know that there's a lot of support internally for Gary Barta at this point.
Gary is responsible for the drive for 325, right?
He's the one who set it up. And I think that was the one that people were excited about, that, okay, now there's perimeter. But I would say who's more popular, Gary is more popular than Brian Ferentz, but he's a fraction of the popularity of Kirk Ferentz or Lisa Bluter or any of the other administrator or coaches at the University of Iowa.
So they just hired a deputy AD named Beth Getz, who was the AD at Ball State since 2018. It would seem like if they have to make a change, that they have somebody who can step in and run the department pretty capably in the short term.
No doubt about it. I mean, Beth has had a lot of difficult things she's had to go through in her career. Now it's 7 or 8, 9 years ago. She was at the University of Minnesota as the deputy when they had a scumbag named Norwood Teague, who was accused and later removed for sexual harassment of not only people inside the athletics department, but reporters and those types of things. And she had to step in and be the interim there until they hired Mark Coyle. And then she, of course, was at Ball State, did an excellent job. And she's well thought of, well respected in the industry, has been on all major committees. I think she could step in, and I would put her as the odds-on favorite if they decided to make a move.
Well, Scott, I know you've got an appeals board meeting to cover. This is not what you sign up to be a sports writer for, but this is going to be really interesting to see how this goes, because you don't usually see a government official just draw a line in the sand like, not writing a check if the AD's not fired.
Exactly. Well, and as you know, all of you know, in Iowa, things move pretty slowly in this area. They are not knee jerk, and probably to their detriment a little bit. Sometimes they do need to have a little bit more of that, and they don't. So when things do come out like this, that means it's serious, that they are serious about this. And the one thing I will say, Rob Sand is one of the few government officials in the state that's a Democrat. And, but I would say also his, the majority of Republicans, including some of the kingmakers during the caucuses, are anti-Barta as well.
It's bad when the caucuses are coming up in a year and they're worried about him. They need to be worried about who's coming by the Hamburg Inn to stump. So, Scott, thank you so much. Go cover your appeals board meeting, and we may see you again very soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right, guys. That was fun. That's
so fascinating. I had nothing to say, which is rare.
It's so weird. Like, how often do you see that where they're like, but the AD's got to go? I mean, that's crazy.
Well, to see taxpayers on the hook for this one.
Yeah.
Like, wait, how does that happen?
It's so bad. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you find some Big Ten money that you're about to get to pay for this. Like, this is your fault. You don't need to be soaking the taxpayers for this one.
But Brian Ferentz also was involved in the thing that we were talking about that has nothing to do with the production. So, like, the idea of...
But he was not part of this case. He was dismissed from this case with prejudice, so you can't really lump him in. Like, he can't be added to it later.
I think it's interesting that there is a potential for taxpayers who love the University of Iowa to have to pay for this when this Cold War between the head coach and the athletic director is happening, in front of our eyes. And the best that we could get was maybe it's a blessing that we get to drive to 325. But this is the guy who is not able to enforce the whole thing. So,
well, and it shows you how bad of a negotiator Gary Barta is, that he's the one who handed Kirk Ferentz all that power. I mean, he didn't have to extend him as far as he did. Who was he bidding against? Like in the most recent extension, I know the one way back, there was NFL interest in Kirk Ferentz. But in the most recent extension, who was coming after Kirk Ferentz that you had to lock him down for that long?
No, you're right. Yeah, that's nuts.
So I mean, that's the thing.
Well, now 10-year contracts are guaranteed. So, maybe he was a visionary.
That's Garrett. That is the first time that word's ever been used with Gary Barta. So there you go. All right, guys, we've got to talk about something else though. Big happenings in Austin, Texas on Monday. The Texas Longhorns started spring practice. Arch Manning has been on a practice field, gentlemen. How do we feel about that, Ari?
Just seeing them side by side, I'm just fired up. Just really fired up. I'll say this: Arch Manning does look like, I'm not trying
quarterback.
No, but like he has the perfect frame for it. Like the guy looks like he's been in college already for a year to me, and it's like this is the first day.
If only
of spring
he knew some people who'd played football at a very high level.
But I'm
to give
saying
him
like,
good advice on training.
The idea of the first day of spring is overreact and jump to conclusions when all they've done is throw a few passes in shorts. But like
I sent Ari one picture of Arch in a practice uniform, and he's like, "That kid looks like a sophomore. He's a stud."
He's a stud. No, I do think though that
look at that picture. He's got it.
Oh, Ari's got a Google image search going on where he's just got every image that was taken of Arch today.
I've learned a lot from you, Max. If you think that was the first time I was looking at pictures of him today, you're crazy. I do think for the sake of this podcast, though, it would be amazing if this turned into a thing. Like, I don't know
Arch versus Quinn,
but like if it actually, if it after spring, and I don't know if it ever like amount to this because Sark did a pretty good job of, keeping quarterback competitions in the past under wraps. If you remember how he handled the Quinn Hudson Card situation a year ago or a year and a half ago or whatever it's been, he did a pretty good job of keeping people guessing. But if it became apparent that there was an actual competition in fall, that would be quite the thing to follow. So, for selfish reasons, I'm kind of hoping it happens. But on the other hand, too, I can't just bail on my boy Quinn. Like, what do you think I'm going to do? Just throw him away and pretend like he doesn't exist? Like, that's my guy.
Throw him away like he threw away his mullet. All right, let's
I bet those boys were talking ring size in between throws this morning, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, personally,
honestly, I did
real
ask
diamonds
about this last summer after Arch committed. I asked, like, how does that kind of work when they're both in the room? And the way he sees it is like he calls it silos. Like Quinn's going to work on his stuff, and I think obviously coming off that first season of starting, Quinn's got to work on footwork and accuracy and consistency and all that, and Arch is going to work on his stuff. And yeah, it's going to be super interesting in August to see how far along both of them are.
Arch has nothing to work on. He's complete. Did you see that today? That pass that he threw?
I haven't seen the
What does he
video.
have to-
The
what does he
video
have
was
to work on?
unbelievable.
You guys are getting on me for Anthony Richardson at the combine. Listen, throwing against air is throwing against air. Let's call it what
Anthony
it is.
Richardson's last name isn't Manning, okay?
That's true. All right, let's hear Sark talking about Quinn and Arch. Our guy, Amar Richardson from Orange Bloods, teed him up to talk about his QBs on day one.
What areas would you like to see Quinn kind of grow and develop maybe this spring? And then can you give me your just first impression of Arch out there?
Yeah, that's fair. I think from a quarterback standpoint, that Quinn had a really good winter, where, it's like anything. He was essentially a true freshman this time last year for us. And so there's a lot on his mind that it's like when the gears are moving, but there's no WD-40 in there. As those gears were grinding, and it felt that way for him pretty much all year long. This winter, it just feels natural. He's throwing the ball well. I think he's emerging as a leader. I'm watching him break the team down. I'm watching him do those things, which is positive. And I think what he's done, he's serving for Arch of, hey, this is what it looks like, and this is how to go about your business. And for Arch today, day one, there's some plays for sure that he would love to have back. And there's some other plays that he made, I think everybody was like, wow, that was a heck of a play. So, again, true freshman, should still be in high school, but he brings definitely a worker's mentality, and he wants to be really good at this game.
So, worker's mentality.
Did he bring his lunch pail?
The gears were grinding. You know what really grinds my gears when coaches talk about grinding?
Yeah.
Guys,
just
like he should be going to prom, but he's in college.
Oh, I mean, he shouldn't be going to prom till May, but come on. Yeah, it's true.
We love that one.
I think he's still going to go to prom. Like, he could fly home. His
That kid's
family's
dropping
really
in on prom
rich.
for sure. Yeah,
So-
for sure.
I'm not a car person, but like if gears are grinding and there's no oil, doesn't that mean the engine's going to burst?
Well, I don't think he was talking about a car because you're not using WD-40 to lubricate those gears. Do you own WD-40, Ari? That was what was going through my
Yeah,
head
I
during
do
that.
because
All
our door.
right.
No, listen though, our door was squeaking. Britt bought it and Britt applied it and fixed the squeak.
I love Brit so much.
It wasn't me. Yeah, I'm not. We have it. It has that little long red straw.
Yep. Oh yeah, just in
Yeah,
case
we
you
got one of those. We got a can
area.
of those. No, but I'm just saying, like in general, if you're not properly lubed, doesn't it? The mechanics of any engine or something that's reliant
If
on
you
gears.
spray WD-40 inside a car engine, does it like light on fire? I don't even know.
Is
that a bad analogy?
I don't think I've ever tried that. I
How
mean,
much different
I think it
is
would be fine.
WD-40 from Pennzoil?
I'm sure in the comments we have some people correcting us,
It's
but
not the podcast for these topics.
yeah, this is not it. Let's talk quarterbacks because Sark had another question that he got about Quinn Ewers, and it was the one I frankly wanted answered the most because Quinn Ewers cut off the mullet. And speaking of car repair, I always thought with the mullet, Quinn looked like that guy in town who can get you the fuel pump for a 1988 Pontiac Fiero at a very reasonable price. And so he doesn't anymore. And apparently
Let's keep that on the download. Not exactly street legal.
exactly. Let's but apparently this is making him a better leader or something. Here is Sark on the removal of the mullet. And I'm sure Sark, as he's answering this, is like, I cannot believe I have to answer this question.
Obviously had a unique look, and then what was your impression when he decided to get the haircut? And do you think that's kind of a sense of him maybe taking it more seriously coming into this season?
I think that was one of the unfortunate things with Quinn. Quinn's a great kid. He's a great teammate. He's really coachable. But one thing we had talked about is sometimes that your appearance / perception precedes you, and then you almost have to overcome yourself, right? And so all of a sudden now the guy gets a haircut and he cleans his beard up a little bit, and everyone thinks Quinn's real serious right now. But that's human nature, right? So I give him a lot of credit for recognizing what he needs to do from a developmental standpoint, but it's never been a question of kind of him taking this serious. He wants to be really good. He wants to be a leader on this team. He wants to win a championship with these guys, and that doesn't change what he does on a day-to-day. But appearance is what it is, and so I do think him recognizing that shows some maturity of kind of his approach to what he's doing.
So is he saying that the haircut makes him more serious, or is he laughing that people think that? Because he said both.
Yes.
He
'Cause
kind
I
of
think
made it
it's
sound like he
ridiculous.
encouraged him to get a haircut.
It
Yeah.
does sound like that. Which, all right, George Steinbrenner, what are we doing here? Like,
I think it's
That doesn't
I
even
think
work
that
for the Yankees
judging him
anymore.
by his appearance is the dumbest thing on the face of the earth. Wasn't there used to be a thing at the combine where they were like if you had a bunch of tattoos as a quarterback that you were taken less seriously because you're not a good leader?
oh, it's a bunch
are
of
we-
tattoos, period,
Yep.
not just as a quarterback. But now,
No,
now
but I thought a quarterback, like specifically, like if you had a sleeve, that you were like less likely to command the locker room or something.
yeah, which is
And I
weird,
saw a
'cause
meme on
half
Instagram
the
today
locker
that
room
said
has a sleeve.
if you used to have it, like in 25 years ago when you had a sleeve, you were in a biker gang that would kill somebody, and now you're a chef that makes a wonderful pork belly with balsamic glaze.
Dynamite risotto. Exactly.
Yeah, like I don't know. One of my best friends is tattooed his entire body, and he's a good person. I don't know what any of that haircut stuff has to do with it. It's like, is that like a symbol intentionally by him to come out and say, hey guys, enough with the mullet, enough with the star ratings, enough with all the stuff that people perceive of me. It's time for me to blend in and earn it. Is that what people think is happening
I
here?
just hope it doesn't hurt his swag. Because, like,
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
the Quinn Ewers I want is the Quinn Ewers pre-injury in the Alabama game. Like, give me that guy because he looked like
Yeah.
he wasn't afraid to squat. Like, he didn't care.
You've seen
And-
Bryce Harper hit a home run before, and then he gets to the home plate and his like long hair's out. Is his hair short now? But he flips the helmet
clown
off and does
question,
one of
bro.
those. Do you do one of those things with the hair? You know,
I mean,
where it flips back, and it's just like
Yeah.
that is. I want Quinn to
Why
take his
not?
helmet off.
Well, I think we can all agree that the problem was the beard. I thought the beard didn't look as good, but the mullet's classic. I think just completely crushing your brand with one haircut it's tough. It's a tough move.
I agree.
And also, too, in the world of NIL, wasn't he like profiting off of that haircut a little bit?
Probably, but
I hope
profit.
so.
He could profit plenty off winning at Texas.
No,
So
I know.
think-
I just mean like it was kind of like synonymous with like his brand.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure Sark didn't want to hear anything about his brand either. So that might have sped along that discussion. But yeah, I don't care what his hair looks like. Again, the mullet was very swaggy. But if he is going out there and refining some of the flashes we saw last year, there's a chance they could wind up with a really good offense this year.
Yeah, Max, let me
Because-
ask you this. I feel like a lot of people gave him a bad rap last year. You know, and he had his moments of great, you know, flashes, and he had his moments of I wish he could have had that playback, but I thought he played pretty well. You know, I looked at that and said that's something you can build off of. Like, what was your take on what you saw out of him?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Sark said is like was how I looked at Quinn Ewers going into 2022 is like I don't really think 2 handoffs at Ohio State is really evidence that you like developed a ton in your semester there, and like we should view you as a second year guy. Like I think he still had to kind of go through the whole process of learning how to be a quarterback at the college level, and when he got to Texas, and I think the thing is like with him is you saw like just the bad games were bad, and that's going to be the case with freshmen. I thought the Oklahoma State game in particular is one where like that should be that should be a win, but you're just too inaccurate. Like I think that there's some of those that were just like rough, but that doesn't mean that, I think we're just so quick to give up on people nowadays in college football that like, you take that as like, oh, I guess he's not it.
Especially when the next one comes
Here
along.
comes Arch. Right.
Yeah.
For sure. So like, I think that there's, as I said before, like, I think there's some very clear things to improve on. And just look, there's not like one player that can come along and replace Bijan. And I think Roshan Johnson's a tough loss too, obviously. But man, like the receiver group with what they have coming back, and then to add AD Mitchell, to add Jonte Cook, the running backs, you add the number 1 running back recruit in the country to help replace the pros you lose. Like the playmakers around, him and Arch is it's an impressive group this year.
And the offensive line is another year long.
Yeah. Yeah, year older.
So.
I mean, yeah, the pieces are there for a top 10 type scoring offense if they can kind of figure it all out.
Oh, Ari's hooking him right
baby.
now. You're all in. I need to see it. I need to see it. But no, I do think they're in a good situation. And the fact that Arch is the rare quarterback recruit of his level who does not seem to be obsessed with playing immediately or intent on playing immediately, I don't think there's going to be a problem. Like, if he's clearly better and they decide he's the quarterback, that's one thing. But if it's close, it seemed like he was going with the intent of playing behind Quinn Ewers for a year and then assuming the job. So nothing seems, out of sorts here. And it feels like it could be a pretty smooth situation.
Yeah. I mean, I probably was like, do you guys think Quinn Ewers will be at the combine next year? Like, I think you saw a lot of that when Arch committed of like, oh, he'll just be at Texas for 2 years and hand it off to Arch. And like, I don't know. There's a lot of growth that's got to happen there, obviously, or you go in the portal or something. But like, how this next year plays out is going to be really fascinating because if he does put it all together, then you could see that being the next step for him. But obviously, like I said, the accuracy, consistency, footwork, there's a lot of stuff to clean up.
So, Max, we got to talk. I was out in Combine land when you and Stuart Mandel's story on the Big 12 and the Pac-12 came out last week, but there was a lot going on. Mac Rhodes, the Baylor AD, had gone on the radio in Waco and said, well, we're not trying to take any teams from the Pac-12, but I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, if it happens, it happens. And it feels like to me, the longer this delay goes with the Pac-12 not finishing up its media rights deal, the more just oxygen it gives all this other stuff.
Yeah, I think in reporting that out with Stu over the course of last week, I think we both kind of marveled at how, and I'm sure you guys have probably noticed this too, the Pac-12 and Big 12 folks seemingly are living in completely different realities about what's going on here.
Yeah.
And that was kind of our challenge, is kind of reporting from each side of it and trying to put it all together, because on the Pac-12 side, I think there's still like a defensiveness of like, things are not as bad as they seem. This is coming together. It takes time because you have, new bidders here with Apple and Amazon or whatever.
Except the Big 12s didn't take any time at all.
No time at all. Right.
That's
that was
that's
re-upping with your current partners, which is
right,
a
exactly.
simpler process. It takes time. Like, if I were to forecast how things are looking as of today, like, don't think it's getting done this week. I think we're probably looking at closer to the end of the month if they get a deal done. So I think that it's a lengthy process, obviously, and that makes it frustrating for some people. But I think the Pac-12 folks still believe like it's going to be a good number. Maybe will it be, more than the Big 12? Possibly not, but good enough, they think. I think that there's still a lot of skepticism that anybody would leave the Pac-12 and the perceived advantage of academic prestige in the Pac-12, that no president's going to sign off on that over the matter of just a little bit of money if the TV deal is not quite right. And there's kind of that skepticism that, ultimately ADs get pitched on this stuff, but it's the presidents who have to approve, switching conferences. And they, Pac-12 ones certainly view things way more through the lens of academics than athletics. And on the Big 12 side, they're telling a very different story, and I think probably more successfully in terms of really trying to destabilize the Pac-12 and really create some hype around what they're doing, and really, like, I think, and again, this goes like to the fan bases online too. I think it's just like gotten crazy on Twitter, like how I don't know, people are very fired up about this.
Oh, I had an Iowa State fan. Somebody had tweeted out what I had told Richard Deitch, our media writer, about the ACC stuff and the ACC TV deal. And I said the ACC TV deal isn't as bad as it's being made out to be, because it's going to pay more than the Pac-12 and the Big 12, but we'll still be far behind the Big 10 and the SEC. And there was an Iowa State fan that's like, no, that's not true, and put up a graphic that had like the Big 12 getting $38 million a year in TV money, which they're not. They're getting 31, and the ACC was 33, but that was the average when the deal was done in 2017 or whatever. Like, the average now of what's remaining on the deal is higher because they're all backloaded. So, like, it's
people are very passionate about this online,
about TV money. Sides. It's strange.
Yeah. It's on the Big 12 side. It's like, as we reported on Friday, like there's I think renewed optimism that they have a chance to land the four corner schools, and that no matter what deal George Kliavkoff can put together, I would imagine Brett Yormark is prepared to argue it's not good enough, and that they're better off in the Big 12, and that he has a better vision for the future here than the Pac-12 does. And so they're continuing those conversations, and I think these next few weeks are going to be really critical. And obviously there's lots of stuff that will happen as a result of what this deal ends up looking like on both sides of it. But it's wild to me just following it, because I think both sides are not taking the other side very seriously, and right. think that the other side is like totally delusional. And, so that makes it complicated to report out like what's real with this stuff.
There will be a day where they have to reconcile that, where like the Pac-12 deal will be on the table. And if it's good enough, they'll just be like, okay, sounds good. And they'll sign it, and that'll be done. And then the next step will be, do they add somebody? Does the Big 12 add somebody from the West Coast?
Yeah.
And then they're fighting over San Diego State, which will also be interesting. But what if it's not okay, or it's not okay with everybody? That's when all of this stuff the Big 12 has been doing. And look, we all know that there's been stuff planted strictly to embarrass and destabilize the Pac-12.
No doubt.
We know that. But also, the Big 12 has done what it should do in this situation, which is keep the lines of communication open and keep saying, hey, if you want to Arizona, to Colorado, to Utah, to Arizona State. And so that if the day comes, I mean, it's really like the Dumb and Dumber thing. So you're telling me there's a chance until that deal's on the table and everybody's like, yeah, we're good with it. They're like, there's a chance.
That was my dating strategy in my 20s, by the way.
And
If
it
you
worked.
want-
I
if
have
you
seen
want.
the pictures.
If you want, I'm here.
It worked. Hey, what do we always say? The best ability is availability.
His availability. And it's not in this situation. It's not hard to sow doubt because you've got this a couple of variables here. One of them is, okay, let's say the Pac-12 can secure enough money, which obviously there are people trying to sow doubt that the money's gonna be way off, right?
Right.
But let's say the money's okay. What if it's an all streaming deal, right? Is that
Right.
how
And that's something
detrimental
to
is that
consider.
going to be to the institutions and their
Mhm.
student athletes? So there's that piece of it. And then naturally there's a part of this that has to get worked out at some point that we all have to acknowledge, which is Oregon and Washington are more valuable than the rest of the remaining members of the Pac-12. And are they going to want unequal revenue? Kind of makes
Ooh.
sense on their end.
Oh, I know something about that. I did an ACC story last week. So
Wouldn't that be reasonable in terms of the
It would
value
be.
that they bring to the conference?
Which
Andy?
then makes the four corner schools more likely to consider something else.
right, because the Big
If
12
that were
would
to
then
go
say,
happen.
hey, we're going to be equal.
Well,
Our-
okay,
our-
so
our
first of all,
contract
you've
is
got to
more
lock them
and
into
we're
a grant of
equal.
rights for the rest of the decade, right?
Yep.
And then you've got to, and then do they want more money than everybody else? Which, in talking with people in the consultant game who have no skin in the game on this one, they say you look at it, and Oregon and Washington bring more value than the median SEC or Big Ten school. Like they are just they're that valuable to the certainly to the deal here for the Pac-12 and to the conference moving forward. And so, again, these are the kind of topics that can, if you're Brad Yormark, you can keep kind of sprinkling that in and trying to make the case of the four corners like, okay, maybe the safe move is stick together, but there's going to be some problems here.
So we may see some movement. I don't know if it's going to be movement. Like you said, it doesn't look like that deal's getting done this week. But we may see some more stuff floating out because all of the ADs, all of the commissioners, all of these conferences are getting together this week. So, all those ACC schools that are fighting will be in Greensboro, and all the Big 12 schools will be plotting against the Pac-12 in Kansas City, and the Pac-12 schools will be, gathering in Las Vegas and saying, we're staying together. We love each other. And we'll see what they say. I'll be curious to see when you get all those people together, what the gossip will be.
Yeah.
Max, you're going to Kansas City.
And how much stock do you put into the denials at this time, right? When you don't have an offer in front of you.
Right. And is it just because you're trying to make the offer better, or you're trying to decide what the best solution is for this if you're the Pac-12? Because they do have multiple solutions on the table. And so the
thing about this too, guys, and I don't know, you tell me if it does seem like ever since USC and UCLA bolted for the Big Ten that this was going to be an inevitability, right? So even if you get a short-term situation done financially with a deal, as we continue to move forward into the path of the Big Two, in 6, 10, 12, 14, however long it's going to be a problem again. So the thing that I continually think about when it comes to the four corners schools is, do you want to jump at the best financial situation, or do you want to jump to a place that you think has a steady, placement into the future, if the time comes where the, Oregon and Washington bolt or whatever, you want to attach yourself to something sturdier. And it's like, I might be the type of person who people think would just jump for the most money. And maybe so, depending on what it is. But I would also want to be on the sturdiest ship. And even if they both exist into the next few years, this isn't the last of this discussion. This is just going to push the boat down the line a little bit more until we have to talk about it again.
Yeah, I think you think back to August of 21, when the Pac-12, and this is an important data point in all this, the Pac-12 decided not to expand and take members from the Big 12. There's a reason why it only took the Big 12 a week to decide, okay, we're expanding, we're adding these four schools. And that is because as much as administrators do not like the anxiety, they do not like the uncertainty. I think everybody was able to move forward on that deal and add those schools because
they'd also
they just
done
couldn't have that
diligence
hanging over
with
them any longer.
With the David Boren Dog and Pony show back in 2016, what was it?
Yeah, that's right.
So they had all the
collected some
dossiers
data
on
from
each
that
school.
time. Yes, they did. And so, yeah, like these Big 12 folks know like it is not fun living in that uncertainty, and that's what the Pac-12 is kind of dealing with right now. And the challenge for the Pac-12 is that there's in part because the Big 12 made those moves already. Like there's not some sort of magical move out there. I think from people we've talked to, adding San Diego State and SMU dilutes the value of the Pac-12 media deal most likely. And so at least in one estimate, right? So there's not some move out there that kind of solves all the problems. There's some things you can do, but you're right, Ari. I think part of that equation there is like, do you want to move towards stability and kind of having a resolution there? And again, maybe the AD's for it, but the president's not. Like that's kind of the clash you have at some of those schools too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what everybody says this week. Max, you're going to the Big 12 basketball tournament. Probably not for the hoops, although that is the deepest basketball league.
I don't think I could write a basketball story to save my life at this point.
Oh man, there is some fun hoops being played in the Big 12. So
Yes.
You're lucky that you can just go catch a game if you'd like to. But I'm sure you're going to be talking to administrators and people like that, because that is, or you're going to go to the Fat Joe concert. Is it Fat Joe?
Fat Joe. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Who else?
Well, it said in the release that's a VIP concert, so I'm not sure if I'm on.
So you'll get in, no
I don't
problem.
think I'm VIP
You're not
side.
important enough to see Fat Joe. Like you get Fat Joe, and you're not going to give Fat Joe to everybody. What?
Now they're also going to have Shaq DJing at this, so that I may try to scope out.
Is he going to play the duet he did with Foo Schnickens back in the day?
Ooh, that's a deep cut, Andy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Listen, I was in Orlando.
Did he do the soundtrack for Shazam? Does he have some tracks on that one?
Interestingly, I think he had
I've
one
never
or
seen
two. I've not seen that Shazam. I've seen the Zachary Levi DC Shazam. Ari hasn't, but
I've seen the Shaq Shazam.
you have?
Yeah.
How was it?
It's the best movie I've ever seen in my life. It's better than anything they're making now. I'll tell you that much.
I really hope
Put it
that
on the
Shaq
tee.
plays "What's Up, Doc? Can We Rock"
yeah.
while DJing, because that's all that really.
I hope
matters.
he does yeah, we're gonna see Shaq and DJ. Excited to find
Also-
out. And I'm excited to eat the food there too.
Do you have to pay extra to get Shaq to DJ, or less to get Shaq to DJ? Because Shaq
I
just
think
wants
Shaq's
to DJ.
making good money on this gig. Yeah, I think he's getting some good money here to go play at Power and Light.
So by the way, the food thing is really interesting. It's hashtag Big 12 Eats. They have a signature dish for every school. Some of them they did a great job. Some of them that is just an embarrassment. Like it should have been easier than this. Like the West Virginia one is a pepperoni roll. That's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. It's called the West Virginia Mountaineer Roll. Like they didn't need to do anything else with that. But the Pistol Pete's OSU fried corn. Listen, I love elote. I love street corn. And this is bacon fried corn topped with crushed Doritos, which sounds delicious. But let's be perfectly honest. Just make some knockoff Eskimo Joe's cheese fries.
Yeah,
Like
Bacon
it's
cheese
not
fries.
that hard.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I probably will eat a few of these things, just for the content, and we can break it down on the
absolutely.
pod. I mean, I think I'm drawn to the Oklahoma taco, the fry bread taco.
I love me some fry bread. Though I do think if you're doing the signature dish of the Norman area, that it should just be a cup of queso that costs $0. Like that is the most amazing thing about Norman. Like you go to Tarahumara's or you go to Ted's Cafe Escondido, like they just put queso, like here's some chips and salsa and here's some queso. And you're like, but I didn't order queso. I'm not paying for this. So no. It's free.
I'm also drawn to the TCU loaded tots. Speaking of queso, tater tots, spicy queso, chopped smoked brisket, pico, topped with purple sour cream. Maybe go light on the purple.
They're
sour
using
cream.
so much purple food coloring in this because
Yeah.
that the TCU tots have purple sour cream, and K-State's Wabash Cannon Dog, which is a bacon wrapped jumbo hot dog topped with Wildcat purple relish. Like you don't need to make the relish purple.
Guys, I feel like we didn't talk about the one that really jumped out to me out of all of them.
The
That was
Baylor
the
Dr. Pepper float.
That's pretty good, but that wouldn't be me. I'm not a sweets guy. Cyclone tenderloin, Kaiser
yeah.
bun, breaded pork tenderloin, sliced onion, sweet and spicy pickles.
Oh, the
Get that up in my face right now. The pork
pork tenderloin sandwich
good.
is thing in Iowa. Like that's a
That's a thing,
very
for sure.
inspired choice. That's a very Iowa choice, and I think that one's.
I think if I had to do a blind choice here, it would be between the pepperoni roll and the tenderloin. But the
I think I get the
pepperoni
tenderloin.
roll I've had a million times, so I think I would probably just do the tenderloin. I mean,
have you not had one of those like where they beat the tenderloin and make it all big and
they have them at German restaurants, don't they? Isn't that like the whole
That's
Hofbrauhaus thing?
That's schnitzel.
Schnitzel, but my mom made schnitzel, but we did it with chicken. That was the Israeli schnitzel.
Yeah,
you know.
but the pork tenderloin thing is like that. You go to
Oh yeah,
a restaurant in Iowa, it's
and the
on
thing is 4
every
times
menu in the
bigger
sandwich section
than the
yeah.
bun, right?
Yeah.
That's that. If you threw a little mashed potatoes on there, maybe we can get a little bit of a
a little crossover, like the country fried steak.
Yeah,
sandwich
that's
at
what I
Ajax
had
and
me
Oxford.
thinking. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do think that mashed potatoes should be a normal garnish on chicken sandwiches. Like I will die with that take.
I don't think that's a bad take.
I would try it. I'm
Yeah.
into
So-
that. I like a rodeo burger too. That's the Texas Tech one here. Do you guys like a barbecue and onion ring burger?
I like
I'm-
it, but I'm more of a simple burger person.
I'm not a big like the giant onion ring. No, because I don't necessarily like onions. I'll eat cooked onions, but the big thick onion ring. No, the onion straws on a burger though, all day.
You know what I like? A cheeseburger with a fried egg on it.
Yes,
Not
the ultimate boss move.
I don't know what it is. I really like that. And, not too much. Like I do think like the onion ring and all that stuff, it tastes good, but I just don't gravitate toward it for some reason.
No, I think the fried egg on a burger is great. I'll tell you what I love is if you want to go fairly simple with one kind of topping that you got to put a little extra effort for, just a mushroom Swiss burger, like sautéed mushrooms,
Yeah.
Swiss cheese. That's a good
No,
burger.
What's going on here?
I'm
I
not a
feel like
mushroom guy. Just anti.
Oh, that's understandable. Again, see, I'm
It's
not
only
getting on
due to
Max
the
for not
flavor and
liking mushroom-
sliminess. It's everything else.
Right.
I have no.
Right.
issue
It's the
with.
same. I wish I could eat fresh tomatoes.
Hmm.
Like a fresh tomato makes me want to gag, and I love things that are made with tomatoes. It doesn't work. But
And
notice
I
I'm
love
not
Andy.
like-
I love red and white onions. Like I
Oh, do
when
you?
you say
Yeah,
you're
I do
against
too,
onion, like,
yeah.
I love onions. Yeah.
I love red
Yeah.
onion too. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
So
raw
what's-
onion does it to me too. I can't eat that.
So you're going to Kansas City? Is that where this is?
That's right.
What's the biggest difference? Is the biggest difference between KC barbecue and like Texas Southern barbecue just more saucy?
They dump.
It's also
this
just pork
sugary,
versus
sweet
beef
sauce.
a bit. I would say I'm not saying that they don't have good brisket or beef ribs or whatever in Kansas City,
Well-
but I think it's more. Andy, wouldn't you say it's more of a pork and
Well,
ribs
I
town?
mean, they're a big burn-in town, which is a beef
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But it's at the older places, it seems to be the sauce. Like they have a very sugary sauce that they dump all over things. The newer places are much more like the places you find everywhere else, where they're not as worried about the sauce. You can get it on the side or whatever. But yeah, I remember going. You go to like Arthur Bryant's or you go to Gates. I believe the rib place, the really old one, is LC's. And I remember going there and getting the ribs and watching them come out of the kitchen with the sauce dumped all over them. And I said, just please don't put that sauce on them. And they were delicious. Like they were cooked perfectly. And I was like, why would you ruin these things with that sauce? But
Yeah.
they love it.
I haven't been to Q39 yet. I've heard good things.
I
Still
went
love
to
Oklahoma
Gates.
Joe's.
Oh yeah. Well, now it's just Joe's because they realized why are we giving Oklahoma all the credit here? Now it's Joe's Kansas City.
Yes.
So-
Have you been to Gates?
Yes.
I
Oh,
thought it was
sure, fine.
delicious.
Yeah.
And then Arthur Bryant burn-ins. I mean, those are
Had that,
kind of
yeah.
classic barbecue fare. So Q39 is one I want to try. I haven't been to that one yet. And I do think all the newer places, it's not the same. Like they get a reputation based on the old tried and true type places. But even Joe's isn't like that. Joe's is more like a Texas barbecue place.
For sure.
So what's
yeah.
that, like a 2-hour drive for you?
It's 3-hour drive. Yeah. I last time we were there, we did a couple different ones. We did Harp Barbecue, which is pretty Texas style. That was really good. And then Buck Tui is a Thai style, I want to say. And it was that you would love, man.
See,
They were doing like they were doing like brisket crab rangoon and ramen and all sorts of sweet
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
I like the Asian influence,
Yeah.
the Latino influence. Like if you go to Houston now, you get there's all kinds of like Blood Brothers in Houston. They have Asian Day on Saturday, where it's just Asian influence barbecue, and it is amazing. So it's getting real good. People are getting very creative with this stuff. So, well, Max, I expect a full report on all of the dishes there, and I expect some scoops on potential realignment because you're at the Big 12. You're gonna get people being like, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this.
I think over the course of March, Andy, I think it's safe to say there may be some emergency pods. People may need to buckle up a little bit here.
You hear that, everybody? We'll get the siren ready. We'll talk to you again soon.